In the last video, I introduced to you my new railfanning hot rod here, a 2025 Chevrolet Trailblazer Active. And to say it proved itself worthy is quite the understatement. It's sleek, it's fast, it's versatile, it's safe, and it makes the traveling part of railfanning extremely comfortable. However, today, I'll be putting this thing to the ultimate test. A surprise train chase down the Bayard line and an equally surprising chase on the river line had me really pushing the limits and running the wheels off it. Not literally. But with that in mind, let's shift into gear and head towards the tracks. From countryside 2 lanes to riverside freeways to rugged mountain gravel roads, my Trailblazer will undergo the test of endurance over a plethora of different landscapes. I, after not being able to railfan for the last 2 months again, will finally return to doing what I love and will undergo the test of fast-paced, heat-of-the-moment critical thinking. I'm en route to Alliance on the morning of Thursday, March 27th, 2025, when I hear NS11N crackling over the radio, passing through Salem and eventually Sebring. I'm not even to Atwater by the time he's in Alliance, so I make the call to duck in at Waterloo Road for the catch. I thoroughly enjoyed starting my day with the sights and sounds of an ES44 AC throttled up on a cool March morning.
11A clear, 73 main flush, tunnel.
I finally make it to Alliance and am greeted by a limited clear signal on the eastbound number 1 track. An ethanol train is imminent. After the 6K4 passed, Cleveland East dispatcher Dave would issue a track authority for somebody to run down the Bayard line. The TA would be for none other than 60X, which I had no idea was running today. 60X is frac sand loads off the CPKC in Bensonville, Illinois for Mingo Junction, Ohio. And you better know I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to chase him. I love chasing trains down the Bayard line, and this was a pleasant surprise after 2 months of dormancy. By now, all of my brainpower was dedicated to strategically selecting spots further down the line to capture this train based on what kind of shot I wanted and where the sunlight would be. I didn't know at the time how far I would go, but I knew I'd probably end up going pretty far, as this was about to be a wild goose chase.
60X, approach Alliance, main 1.
And now the chase is on. Sprinting down Homeworth Road toward New Garden Avenue, I pull ahead of the train at Homeworth. Hanging a right onto Bayard Road, I pass through the beautiful countryside of Moultrie.
Norfolk Southern milepost 64.2. No defects.
I pull into Sandy Spring Road in Bayard with just 30 seconds to spare as the 60X rounds the bend past the giant grain elevators of White Leather Holstein's farms.
GPS signal lost.
Oops. I promptly follow it eastward. Crossing over the tracks at the OHIC interchange, I see the rear end of the train slipping away into Bayard. It's now a race for the tail. I must keep up with the tail end of the 60X between here and the crossing at State Route 30 in order to have a chance of leapfrogging him to Kensington and Summitville. Alright, caught a little traffic in Bayard, but I'm meeting the tail end of the train right here. Just west of Kensington, so this will be, or not Kensington, west of East Rochester. So this will in fact be perfect. Have a little work to do, but that work should be easy. There we are. What are they doing? What? Oh, they're chasing it. I hope that's the Meadows. It is. Is that Randy? Oh, it's Randy. It was indeed my good friends Randy and Ray Meadows chasing the 60X with me. The two of them initially ducked in at Kensington and miraculously pulled off a shot of the engines passing by the cut. We'd ultimately join forces and make our way to the S-curve at Summitville, east of CP Shale. We packed up, moved on, and promptly got stuck in traffic, but in different ways. Randy and Ray got behind a Chevy Equinox doing 15 under the speed limit, and I got caught up in construction. Lucky for us, the train started slowing down as we left. They must be moving a piece of heavy machinery, I can't tell. Oh look, a measly car, and they're letting us go. Yippee-ki-yay. Somehow, by the grace of God, we still managed to get far ahead of the train by the time we all hit Salineville. I decided to try a different crossing than the one in town and ended up at the 35 intermediate. The sunlight was just barely on this side of the tracks, so this is the angle we would decide to try and work with. We all would have much preferred the other side, but this actually turned out a little better than we had anticipated. Here comes the 60X, at a snail's pace, passing Hazel Run Road before reaching our crossing at Clark's Mill in 35. He's likely pacing himself down to Yellow Creek while the Conway Terminal dispatcher seeks out any vacancies at Mingo Junction Yard. Track authority down the river line east of Yellow Creek cannot be granted until the yardmaster is interested in the train. Here in Salineville, the Cleveland East dispatcher desk ends and Conway Terminal takes over between here, Yellow Creek, Mingo Junction, and Conway. The train would finally receive its aforementioned track authority at Hammondsville down the river line toward Mingo. Despite that, however, it only continued to slow down, as the signals ahead would not be improving just yet, giving us a critical advantage.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 28.6. No defects.
I pulled off to the side of State Route 213 just east of Hammondsville to capture this breathtaking shot under a set of power lines. A quarter of a mile east of here is CP River, where the Yellow Creek running track breaks off the main to join the river line at CP Branch, crossing over its namesake waterway on this bridge. Because the 60X is taking the diverging route onto dark territory, the best signal he can get at river is a restricting. Proceed only fast enough to be able to stop your train within half the range of your vision in case of obstruction, which explains why he's going so darn slow. This sharp connection is about as blind as a blind curve can get, which requires extra caution and quick reflexes from the engineer, especially for a fully loaded sand train. After the engines passed beneath us, we whipped onto Route 7 and started making our way down the river line. Our next location would be an overpass next to the recently closed Samus Power Plant in Stratton. Conway Terminal would instruct the 60X to hold at Stew Siding in Steubenville, as the 62V was just going on duty at the Ohio Central Interchange in Golds. This would be our last shots of 60X for the day. We started making our way toward Gold's Yard in Mingo as the 60X cleared the detector at Toronto.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 7.4. No defects. Total axle 418.
60X, Conway. Yeah, if you get a moment, can you see if we're turning back to Cleveland or going to the hotel? I forgot to ask it earlier.
We pulled up to the old Pensy signal bridge at Golds, and there he was, NS62V building his train at the interchange. I'll be over there. The 62V daily trash empties from here at Mingo to the CSAO at Oak Island, New Jersey. The consist is brought down here to Golds by the Ohio Central Railroad from the Apex landfill just south of Amsterdam. Norfolk Southern brings it out of the Ohio Valley, over the Allegheny Mountains, and through the Lehigh Valley to Oak Island. Half the train is loaded with New York City stink at a GCT port in Staten Island. The other half is loaded at Interstate Waste Services in Bridgewater. It all comes back here the way it came for the OC to take to Apex. On this day in 2025, the 62V is pulling ahead to double its train, hang a marker, and get on the pole towards Conway. I started my move north and east before the 62V departed Mingo. I'm not exactly sure why, but I wasn't able to pull off any spots in Steubenville to shoot the train. I ultimately ended up at Pottery Edition. I liked the shot here, just not the terrible backlight.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 16.1. No defects. Total axle 496.
And so the chase begins again, back onto 7 en route to Toronto. However, well, I got stuck behind a truck and this is what happened. There goes my shot at Toronto. Oh well, we at least got the detector here, so we'll figure out how long he is. Man, he's a big one today. This is gonna be a hard time trying to leap him. I finally pulled ahead of him at Stratton and was able to manage this shot at Wellsville. I believe these scrap gondolas at the head end came from Weirton, West Virginia, and are bound for Island Avenue Yard in Pittsburgh.
Norfolk Southern milepost 7.4. No defects. Total axle 496.
I beat the train one last time to the old Pensy position light at Industry. However, because I crossed the state line into Pennsylvania, I somehow was no longer scanning the correct frequency, and dumb me didn't pick up the high car detector here. Oh well.